Welcome to the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, the show that puts the spotlight on the incredible women who fuel the world of motorsports. From drivers to crew members, engineers to fans, and everyone in between, we're here to celebrate the trailblazers, dreamers, and doers shaping the sport we love. Each episode, we share inspiring stories of females of all ages, from every corner of the motorsports universe, past, present, and future. It's a journey through the seasons of life filled with heartfelt moments, laughter, and a whole lot of horsepower. So whether you're a lifelong fan, a racer yourself, or simply curious about the extraordinary women behind the wheel, settle in, relax, and enjoy a fun and uplifting ride with us. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, connecting and celebrating women in motorsports, one story at a time. Let's hit the track. Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. And my guest today is Dana McCarthy. Dana, I want to welcome you to the show. Thanks for being on and taking time to do this with me today. And first of all, I'd like you to share a little bit about yourself, your family, whatever you'd like to share with us so we can get to know you better.
All right. Well, first of all, Melinda, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Let's go back to the beginning, I guess. So I was born and raised in a little town called Broomfield in Colorado. It's about 20 minutes north of Denver. Since I was a little kid, my earliest memory of going to the racetrack, we would go to Rocky Mountain Speedway, and just my dad was into racing, my grandpa, my uncle, my brother, everybody was into racing. So just tying those roots throughout my childhood, and later on, once you graduate high school, I went to college and kind of went through a couple different career paths. At one point, I thought I wanted to be a storm chaser, and at one point, I thought I wanted to be a nurse. And after the nursing gig, I kind of was sitting there thinking, like, no, you really need to do something like that you enjoy in life, right? Like, life's too short to not enjoy it. So I went to business school, and I got my bachelor's in business administration with a minor in marketing. And not long after that, I was kind of doing like a little bit of, I call it like freelance work, but just creating some small race day posts here and there, and kind of networking with all of our close racing friends and whatnot. And not long after that, I was offered a job at Kasey Racing. So I packed up my stuff and moved to Mooresville, North Carolina.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And he's going to run in the Daytona, right?
He's going to run Rockingham.
Oh, Rockingham. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm sorry. I misspoke. I heard that he was going to come back and run. Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. It's funny. The second he found out Rockingham was on the schedule, he pretty much jumped at the bit and was like, I got to get back in a car. I need to run that race. So yeah, it's really exciting to see after, I think it was either 2017 or 2018 was his last time he was in Cup. So it's exciting to see him get back in the car and go have a little fun.
And it's going to be totally different because it's not the same kind of car either. And so, but I know he's good at that track. And so that's why he wants to run there.
Yeah. And ironically, so we were at testing on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, and it was either his first or second session. He was fourth fastest. Like, it's just like riding a bike, He just got back in it. So that's awesome. I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, I am too. I like seeing that he's coming back. He's been busy in racing, doing all kinds of stuff, but this is pretty exciting. So you got involved with him. So what were you doing, and when was that? Tell me the story.
All right. So let's see. March of 2022 is when I got the call for a job. I was offered a job to do partnership marketing. And essentially what that was is Napa Auto Parts is their primary sponsor on Brad Sweet's number 49 car. The job I was offered, the role I took on was to manage our Napa sponsorship. So with that came, you had to do press releases. I did some social media, handled meet and greets, requests. I organized hospitality. We offered hospitality and like a VIP ticket program to all the Napas across the country. So, for those that don't know, we were racing anywhere from 75 to 80 times a year, and that's throughout, 20 plus states. So we were literally going coast to coast. So as we were doing that, I was offering all of our local DCs that were in the area, they would be offered a ticket and hospitality program. So I would manage that. And then I also project manage, car schemes, paint schemes, crew shirts, designs. I project manage a couple hauler schemes. So kind of you wear a whole variety of different hats, essentially.
And it's honestly, to me, that sounds like a lot of fun because it's a lot of different things. And the design part, see, I'm into that. I owned a weekly newspaper for 10 years, and I've been a graphic designer for a long time. Just love all that. So to me, that sounds fun. Was it? I mean, I know it can be stressful. Okay. No job is perfect, but what did you love about that job?
So here's the thing. Honestly, I love the fact that I started off with kind of a smaller role, and Kasey gave me the opportunity to take that role and build it. And he had full confidence in me. And so he let me do my thing. He had trusted me to do my thing. And I built that program up. And honestly, my favorite thing would be probably, I started off traveling to just a few races. And in my past year, I ended up traveling to maybe like a fourth of the races. And the best part would be probably when I was doing when we would host hospitality dinners at the racetrack, or even if it was just a ticket package of 40 Napa folks from the local DC, being able to bring them out to the racetrack, many of which have never been to a sprint car race before.
Right.
And because I'm so passionate about sprint car racing, it's kind of transferring that experience over to them, and them getting to see that side of things. And then by the end of the night, I know I did my job. If they're smiling, they're excited, they love the race, they get to take a tire home. That was always my favorite part, was basically building an experience for the people that have never been to a sprint car race, and leaving with the best impression you could give them.
And we know that all it takes really, and I don't care what kind of racing it is, you go one time, you're going to be hooked. Most people, I'll say not everybody, but most of the time, if we can get somebody to a track to experience the sights, the sounds, the smells, all of that, then we know they're going to come back because there's nothing else like it.
That's just it, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're going to, a dirt race, and yeah, you might get hit with a little bit of dirt, but then you can see the excitement of how fast the cars move on the track, right? And you go to an NHRA race, and every time they go down, like, I feel like my heart stops, and you're like, whoa, like, it doesn't take very much to get them hooked, but once they're hooked, that's the best thing we can do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, for sure. So is that what you're still doing, or have you transitioned to other things? So what are you doing now?
So to kind of give a little backstory, sprint car racing has always been my biggest passion, and if I'm being honest, will always be. I love nothing more than a good sprint car race. Um, but towards the end of last year, and you're on the road and you're traveling a lot, and you're checking your phone 24/7 because you're doing social media, and then you're trying to make sure you got your tickets right, and you're looking at what's coming up. And so I was just kind of thinking about, when we were actually on the drive home from Texas Motor Speedway. This was after Brad had won the high limit championship, and we're driving back, and I kind of sat there, and I started thinking about, okay, I've been doing this for about 3 years. I love what I do, but at some point, you have to keep evolving and building your career. And so I was sitting there thinking, okay, so like, what would be my next step? And I have, just after hanging out with Kasey Kahne Racing, you develop a lot of friends in NASCAR over the years and a lot of connections and partners. And so I reached out to several people I knew in the NASCAR world, and I kind of asked them what they thought, did they think that was a good move to maybe step into basically what is a partnership marketing role, but they call it account management in the NASCAR world. So I got some opinions, and everyone's like, no, it's great. Like it's a good opportunity, don't pass it up. So I had a connection over at Spire Motorsports, and ironically, right after World Finals, they were hiring for an account manager, and lo and behold, I ended up being offered the position. And so now I manage the number 7 truck. And then part-time, I manage the '07 truck for Spire Motorsports.
Okay. And do we know who the drivers are going to be for that?
So all that I can say now is Justin Haley and Michael McDowell will be in those trucks for Daytona.
Okay.
And then bringing some of our sprint car roots back, Mr. Corey Day will be driving the number 7 truck with Hendrick cars on it for 8 races with me. So I'll get to dabble in a little bit with my sprint car guys. So
that's fun.
That's all we've announced for now. But
yeah. So I don't know if I told you this or if you had made the connection, but I've become quite a fan at Spire because one of my very favorite drivers is driving there. Do you know who that is?
I'm going to say it's probably Michael, if I had to guess.
Carson Hocevar.
Oh, I saw him today, actually. He was in the shop today.
So he's from Portage, Michigan. And I live in Kalamazoo, which there's no, you go from Kalamazoo to Portage. So yeah. Carson raced quarter midgets for many, many years. He was at one time the most winning quarter midget driver in the country. He was amazing. And he's about the same age as one of my granddaughters. They actually used to race against him some at Kalamazoo. We called it Little Kalamazoo Speedway.
Okay.
It's right next to the big Kalamazoo Speedway where the big cars run. And so his mom pretty much ran that track for a long time. And
wow.
And so I know them, very well. I follow Carson. I have followed him for even late model days, just because when you know somebody, it makes such a difference.
Yes.
Or if you meet a driver. So for instance, Eric Jones, he drives for Legacy Motorsports, but he's from Berlin, Michigan.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's from Michigan too.
Right. And so when you have gone to the tracks and seen them race and feel like they're a hometown person, naturally you're going to be a huge fan. And then, I really did like Corey LaJoie. He wasn't maybe the most talented driver, and we can say that. He would say that. He struggled, but I really liked him as a person. And so, there's connections. And so when Spire came on the scene, I really took an interest in Spire Motorsports, and I still do because of Carson. And they're just making so many big, wonderful changes.
That's just the thing. I feel like Spire, Jeff had a vision and started out small, and just quickly this has grown, Spire has grown rapidly. And now we got, 3 cup teams, 3 truck teams, and it's not going to stop there. They have the hockey side of things and the Spire Sports and Entertainment's the holding side of things. So it's truly incredible to see what they've done in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I agree. And success. They've been successful. And, even Denny Hamlin said about his team when he started, don't expect us to be successful the first few years. And yet they were, as well. But I just think that when the owner and the leadership put their heart and soul into it, then there's nothing they can't make happen, and they find the right people to join their team, just like they found you, Dana. So, they find the right people, and that leads to something else, and pretty soon they're successful. You had Rookie of the Year at Spire this year, and so lots of good things happening there. So you're going to be the account manager. Is it going to be very similar to what you were doing before, or are there different jobs that you're going to be doing as an account manager?
So this is kind of like the best thing for me. I don't have to do social media.
Okay.
Which, I don't know. I never really felt like I was the best at social media, but I'll do roughly, other than that, I'll do roughly the same thing. I'm still doing some PR work. I'm going to be organizing meet and greets if there's any kind of media request, or, for example, if one of our drivers is being interviewed on the Chevy stage, doing a pre-stage interview or a pre-race interview. I'll handle that. I also handle, so you're managing your partners, right? If you have a partner going on this weekend versus this weekend, we have different crew shirts, different hero cards. You manage all your hero cards. We'll manage, and that's where you incorporate some of the meet and greets. We have hats for each event, right? Like for that specific sponsor. If there's any like certain expectations or anything that's specific that partner wants for that race, we'll get pit boxes ready, we'll get radios ready for them. And then it's mostly kind of what I'm doing now. The only difference was social media, and then also I don't have to wash the driver suits anymore, which is a great thing.
You were washing the driver suits before?
Yeah, so before I would help, when I was on the road with the boys, I would help clean the hauler. We wipe down the hauler every single day after race night. I would help do that. I'd help wash driver suits. When you were on the road, you learn to help anywhere you could.
Sure.
Right? Like there's a lot of stuff to be done in a short period of time, and you're racing so much that even if it was something as simple as go grabbing ice or go grabbing drinks to go help stock up the cooler, just stuff like that. So, so luckily on this side of things now, I will help get, make sure that we have like the correct fire suits and stuff on the trailer with the corresponding partner for that weekend. I'll help in that regard. But other than that, it's mostly what I did at KKR, just on a little bit of a larger scale.
Okay. Yeah, because I know nothing against Kasey in the series he was running. Like you said, he ran a lot of races, but this is kind of the next step up as far as, and so you coordinate more things, and maybe other people actually have to, go pick up the hats and go pick up that. Yeah, for sure. So, how long ago did you get this job?
So I was actually offered the job. It was right around World Finals time. It would probably been like the second week of November.
Okay.
And then my last day basically with KKR was at the end of the year. It was December 30th. So I started January 2nd at Spire, and here we are. It's, you got the Clash this week, and Daytona's coming up. Like our window of off-season tasks is really quickly coming to a close, and you're just trying to make sure that once you hit the road running, like you got everything organized and done that you can ahead of time before the race is here, and you got to leave, and
Yeah.
So it's all about being organized.
And getting hero cards done, and hats and shirts, and there's lead times, and there's you can't wait till the last minute for many of those things. So you've got to be looking, I'm sure, way down the road at the calendar and looking at all the different sponsors that you're going to have. It's not like the old days when you had one sponsor, and you might have had more than one race suit, but it was basically a race suit with a couple different designs, and the driver had the same one, or the crew, or whatever. Now I it's hard to keep track sometimes of what sponsor is with what driver, and you've got to get all that coordinated and make sure it's all right and everything's in the hauler. So you're kind of the mom in some ways.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is like when I was at KKR, I was known as the mom of the group, and I was totally fine with that as long as everybody was in line and had their stuff together, you know.
Yeah.
But like I said, you know, and on the KKR side too, like Napa was the main primary sponsor for the 49, so there was stuff was always simple, ready to go, got it all done in the off season, and same with Kasey. But yeah, now, you know, you have a primary sponsor for maybe like one or two races this month, and then maybe you have it 6 times for the next month. You know what I mean? Like you're just
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, hang on, I got to keep up with everything now. So, yeah,
Uh-huh.
being organized, I have probably like 3 calendars. I have a notebook, like just being organized and double checking everything you do is the biggest thing that'll basically ensure, like, okay, I've got this covered. Let's move on
Mm-hmm.
to the next thing. We're ready to go this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. So I know it's, really we haven't even started the season yet, but it's a couple days away. But do you see, when you look down at the schedule for the year, is there anything that really excites you about, oh, we're going to go here, or we're going to do a big event there, or anything like that? Something that really has you like, oh, I can't wait for this to come.
So, I've got 2 different answers for you.
Okay.
Um, My first answer, because I'm a sprint car girl, is
Yeah.
high limit and NASCAR. We line up with both of the schedules line up at Vegas, Texas Motor Speedway, and then Kansas. And
Okay.
so I've already told my guys like, hey, I'm gonna be there when you guys are in town. I'll be there. So I'll go hang out with the boys for those couple nights. So like I really look forward to like Las Vegas, which is their season opener,
Okay.
and they'll race on a Thursday and a Saturday, whereas the trucks run on a Friday. So, you know,
Perfect.
some of the guys can come out to see me, I can go out to see them, but then also if I'm looking at strictly just from the truck schedule, the one race I'm always excited for is the Bristol night race.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
one, there's something special about it, you know?
So that's on my bucket list. I've been to quite a number of tracks, but I still have a lot to go. And my bucket list is to be a fan at every NASCAR track. And so I'm working on it, but I haven't been to Bristol. And I definitely want to do the Bristol night race. And I've just heard so many wonderful things about it that it's near the top of the list of things to do.
Hey, it's 2025, you know. If we got to knock something off
No.
that bucket list, this is the opportunity to do it.
I know. I really want to go to Vegas this year too.
Mhm.
Um, a friend of mine that owns a company in Salt Lake City area, um, been trying to get him to a race. He's never been to a NASCAR race, and he's a gearhead. He's like got Harleys and snowmobiles and all kinds of stuff, right? And so the fact that he's never been to a NASCAR race, and so I really wanted to try to get him to Vegas because it would be probably the closest one for him, and then I'm going to be reaching out to my friends that race and get some pit passes so I can get him in the pits, because there's nothing like watching the race from being inside in the infield and in the pits. So um, that's kind of my next one that I'm working on, and then we'll see after that. Look at the schedule and see how it goes.
Yeah, you never know. You
Yeah,
never know. Something might open up.
yeah, for sure. So this is all new really for you, Dana, but it sounds to me like this is kind of maybe where you have landed, is where you're meant to be, that this has been brewing for a while, that you kind of, you started by going to the track with your family and then just, figuring out what it is you wanted to do. And that's a hard thing. I don't think schools do a very good job. At least my kids never had anybody that does a very good job in high school of kind of guiding kids to the right path based on their interests, and it's sad because you might waste a few years and some, funds trying to figure that out. But I like what you said, that, nursing wasn't going to be it. You wanted to find something that made you happy, that excited you to get up and go to work, that you went home from work and you're thinking about, oh, I could do this or I could do that, or, in excitement, not dreading that, oh, there's too much on my plate. And so I love that you figured that out at a very young age.
Well, and that's just it, right? Like from the time you're a teenager all the way through your 20s, through your 30s, no matter what, you're constantly changing and evolving as a person. What you liked when you were a teenager may change significantly from what you like when you're at 25, 26
Right.
to when you're 30, right? You keep changing, and so maybe that's why it's kind of hard to guide
Yeah.
like teenagers and kids to kind of go on that path, but maybe they just need to understand like that's why you try different things,
Yeah.
I tried storm chasing, didn't work out. I tried nursing, quickly was like, no, you need to do what you enjoy. Like you got one life,
Yeah.
do something you enjoy. So, yeah, honestly, I feel like I definitely landed where I was supposed to. I used to go to elementary school and show up for picture day with a sprint car t-shirt on, and it's just like it's one of those things like once you get it in your blood, you can't like get rid of it. So
No.
I'm definitely, I miss my sprint car guys and the side of things, but and it's scary to make a change, right? Like
Sure.
you don't know what's above and beyond, so it's scary to make those changes, and especially, like KKR was my dream job and I loved every second of it, but it just goes back into, well, we got to keep growing and evolving as a human. So,
Yeah.
no, I'm really happy with where I've ended up, and everyone at Spire has from day one has just welcomed me with open arms, and um,
Yeah.
I couldn't ask for a better group of guys. They treat you so well and make sure you're included. And
Yeah.
if you need anything, every one of them will sit there and say, "Hey, let me know how I can help you. Let me know what you need. Let me know." So
Yeah.
it's simple things like that. And the other day, Ryan Sparks made a good point. He's like, everyone that we hire is an A+ person.
Mm-hmm.
That's how Spire keeps growing, and so
Yeah.
you're with the best in the business over there. So
Yeah. And that's nice to hear, and it's nice to know that because I did I did like a talk type thing for a company one time, and we talked about A+ people and C+ people or C people, and don't settle for those C people. You want the best. And so I'm glad that Spire has that work ethic, I guess you could say, that they want the best because they want to be the best, and I love that part. So, will you be traveling to most of the races then, or all the cup races, or all the truck races? I mean,
yeah, so I'll be traveling to all the truck races, and then just me being the helpful person I am, I did offer if there was any cup weekends that any of our cup people needed off, I said I would be right there. So
yeah,
um so as of right now, we're definitely doing all 25 truck races, and then we'll do a few cup races. So
okay,
I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a little bit of a change, but I'm looking
yeah.
forward to it.
Well, and you got to look at it this way too. Um, Everything you did for Kasey is put to good use because now you're going to use all that knowledge and experience, and it'll grow. And so it was the perfect stepping stone to go from there to here. Now you will go probably tomorrow. Then do you go to? Will you be going to the? Oh, I can't even think of
The
it. Oh,
Clash.
the Clash. Yeah. Will you
Um,
be going to the Clash?
so not the Clash. The Clash actually has limited the amount of like crew and admin that are
Okay.
allowed in there because it's such a small venue.
Right.
So my first race will actually be at Daytona. The
Okay.
the biggest race of the year is our
Yeah.
first one. So yeah, that'll be the first one. But I'm excited, we'll have,
Yeah.
and luckily like we'll have Michael and Justin Haley in the car. So
Right.
they're veterans. They're
Yeah.
great with media.
They are.
They're both they're both obviously good at Daytona.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
they are.
so
And
yeah, we're looking forward to that aspect.
they're good people.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't, I can't really think of anybody offhand that I would say is not a good person, but some just stand out more than others from when you see them do media. And Michael McDowell always seemed to me like he was really sincere and authentic person. And you get what you see. He's not just saying things because he thinks it's the right thing to say. And I like that.
And that's so true. He's been in the shop a couple times, and I sit next to his PR and account manager on the cup side, and he always comes up, says hi, checks in on everyone, sees how they're doing. Like, he's a genuinely
Mm-hmm.
nice, humble guy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if he's talking to corporate, it doesn't matter if it's a sponsor, it doesn't matter if it's the garbage man. He treats everybody the same and with respect, and just he is just genuinely like one of the best guys out there. So I'm really grateful that we get to have him a part of the Spire organization.
Yeah, I've heard that about him. He's one that I haven't met personally, but I just know from watching, and I'm an avid NASCAR fan, so I could pick them all out, who's who, and even their voices. You get used to hearing them talk, and he's a good one, that's for sure.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
you're not a social media fan, it doesn't sound like.
No, and here's the wild thing. I'm 31 years old, and I feel like, and as crazy as this is going to sound, I just feel like when I took over social, like I improved, the presence in terms of posting more often, showing what the team was doing more often. That's all great. But every now and again, like when it came to like making reels and stuff like that, like just I felt so out of touch with what, you know, the younger generation was doing. And I know that sounds crazy because I'm not that much older, but it's kind of one of those things, I felt out of touch with what was going on there and whatnot. And then you're doing social media, you're trying to make sure hospitality is taken care of, you're trying to make sure, you know is the
Hmm.
driver's suit right, are all the logos right, does everyone have like their copyright, like
Yeah.
you're making sure so many different things all the time. And social media is just one of those things, like you're checking it every 30 minutes to make sure someone didn't like
Yeah.
put something horrible, or you're not getting spammed, or
Yeah.
um
It's a full-time job.
and it really is. And I don't think, like, when you hear, people talk about being a social media manager, I don't think social media managers ever get that much credit.
I don't
And
either.
it's an exhausting job. And that's the one thing, like, people are like, well, how hard can it be? You just take a photo of something and post, and it's like, no, you got to make sure you're giving the right, you're getting the right impressions, you're representing your brand, your
Hmm.
sponsors, your partners correctly. You're projecting that image, like, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're trying to do. So
Right. And it's so
it's a
easy.
lot.
It's so easy for it to go wrong.
That
That's the
it is.
thing. I mean, we see that, and in fact, I was just thinking about this the other night. I get a lot of messages come through, and some of them are kind of long, like posts. And I try to follow as many of the girls and women that I've interviewed or that I know as I can. But I've done 350 podcasts since whatever year it was, 2018. I've written over 500 stories for my online magazine. I can't begin to keep track, but I'm scrolling and I see, oh, Dana posted this, and I'll start to read it, and then I'll see that it's like really long. And so I just like it and move on.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll get you in trouble
Yeah.
because how do you, I don't always know the rest of the, and so I thought about that last night. Um, we've seen some NASCAR drivers get in trouble for just kind of going through and liking things without really reading. And I was thinking I've got to be so much more careful
Yeah.
about either don't like it or read it, but you can't kind of read it and like it because that'll get you in trouble.
That's just it, right? Like we live in a day where you have to be so careful, like you said, of everything that you're clicking like in. When it's like sitting here and it might start off like you're thinking it's one thing, but by the end of it, it's totally different. You're like, oh, I got to be careful with
Right.
what I'm liking, what I'm saying. I don't want people to think like, I'm a horrible human being or anything.
Right.
And two, you don't want to support anything that obviously that doesn't mesh with like your morals and your values and whatnot. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
wild time. Social media is a wild game.
It is a wild game, and I I had been doing some social media for a company in Florida, fencing and pole barns, that kind of stuff, and that's really hard because there's not a lot you can say about fences and pole barns, and yet when I do my own social media, I have so much fun with it because it's mine and I can decide what I'm going to say or not say, or what I'm going to, if I'm going to always talk about racing, and I don't. I do all kinds of things because that's who I am. I'm not just a racing enthusiast. I'm a mom. I am a mama of 16.
Wow.
I have my motorcycle license. I do a lot of things. And so I think that for me, I have fun with it, but it's easier when it's for yourself. When you're trying to do your best to represent a brand or a race team, and then you've got keyboard warriors out there that want to try to cause trouble, or they don't like your guy because he ran into his, whatever. And it's hard. It's really hard. And you're right. The social media people don't get enough credit. And when something goes wrong, they catch hell about it, which is not always fair either.
Right. And that's like, it's kind of like what you say, right? So there'll be nights where, like, when I did KKR social media, like, people would bash on us for no reason. Like, there was sometimes, like, people bash on you just to bash on you. Like, they
Yeah.
have nothing better to do. And,
Right.
and you're just like, why, why'd you pick us?
Yeah.
Like, you could be doing something so much better with your life than just, like, picking a fight with someone you don't even know who it is. And,
Yeah.
but then other times too, like if there was like an incident on the track, like earlier in the year there was an incident with Brad and James, and it wasn't an intentional accident, it just became a racing incident, and people were just bad mouthing Brad so horrible and so horribly, and the wild thing is people, like, what people don't know, Brad, Kasey, James, they're all really close friends. And right,
Hmm.
after the race, Brad and James had a conversation about it and they were all good. And people
Yeah.
just continued to bash Brad until James was the one to come out and say, hey, no, like, it's okay. We're
Enough is
good.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's so true. But I don't know. It's here to stay, that's for sure. So I guess we've got to figure out either how to handle it the best, and sometimes ignoring it is the best way to handle it, I think. For
yeah. Yeah.
sure.
There's sometimes you speak up, and then there's other times you just unfortunately have to bite your tongue and
Yeah.
say it's not worth it.
No, it's not. So, Dana, what have I not asked you about, or have we not talked about that we should talk about you, your job, what you're looking forward to?
So I got a little bit of advice for anyone, for any females specifically, but really for anyone that's trying to do this.
Okay, good.
Um, the one thing I wanted to mention, so when I did this, at one point I mentioned I was doing like a little freelance work. So I was just creating some simple race day graphics for just random people, posting them out there. And like, you become friends with these people over time. And um, then if they like what you do, they might reshare it. And if they see enough of it, then they might, just be like, hey, at some point, you know, would you be willing to help me do this like part time? Um, so you can do that. Another thing, I was going to the races often, and that's where you network. Tell people,
Yes.
hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I don't expect like an immediate job, but can I do some free work for you?
Mhm.
So anyone that's trying to get, whether it's a photographer, PR, marketing, social media, get to know some of these drivers and just see if you can do work for free, just part-time, and eventually word of mouth, that'll lead to a gig at some point.
Yeah.
That was my thing. Every time I was out at a race, I would always stop by and see everybody, talk to people, and when they were like, "Hey, what are you up to?" And I'm like, "Well, I just graduated. I'm looking for a job in marketing, and so if you hear of anything, like, please let me know." And before you know it, word of
Somebody's going
mouth.
to reach out.
And that's how I got my deal. Like, KKR called me, was like, "Hey, would you be interested in doing this?" So, that's just the thing. Don't be afraid to do a little bit of free work and put yourself out there. I know it can be so scary to put yourself out there, but it's like the famous Wayne Gretzky quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
Yeah. Isn't that true? And
it is. It
and
totally is.
every time you put yourself out there, it gets a little easier. And so, and here's the other thing. There's a couple things that I was thinking about when you said that. One is timing. So, you may talk to this certain person, and at that time they don't know of any openings. But then, down the road, somebody mentions something to them. So it's about timing too. It's not always going to happen in your timing. It'll happen in God's timing. And
Right.
and the other thing is that being an intern or offering, just say, "Hey, I love sprint car racing. If if you would pay my pit pass, I'll do this in exchange. You get to go to the races, you get to do whatever, and then you get to help them out." And that's a good trade. So trading time for whatever is another good way to do it. And so lots of good ideas, Dana, for sure, to help young women, and like you said, young men too, but we kind of focus on the women, help them get their names out there. And if you're at the racetrack, people notice. People notice. That's how I've gotten to know people is, I met them at a track, then maybe I interviewed them for something. And then every time I go to the track, if I know they're going to be there, then I make sure that I talk to them. And that's how I got to be friends with Samantha Bush, because of that. Same way with Liz Prestella. She's a tire changer in the Cup Series. Did a story on her, and she and I become really good friends. And she could be my daughter. That's how much younger she is. But it's about putting yourself out there and letting people know what you do and what you're wanting to do, and not be shy. Don't be shy about it.
That's just the thing. Maybe, people get shy sometimes, and that's maybe because it's so scary, like, it's hard to put yourself out there with the thought of, well, what if I get rejected?
Right.
But then there's that same notion, like, well, what if I don't?
Yeah.
So, and with the whole KKR thing, like, I was networking for at least probably a whole year and a half before I got my call. But, nothing, it's like you said, nothing ever happens on your timing, right? It always happens like when it's like least expected, but
Yes.
it's as long as you're getting those opportunities and you take them. The scary thing is if you don't ever take them because you get
Yeah.
too comfortable where you are,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, and this is for anyone, any females or anyone that watches your podcast, but if people ever have questions or need advice or anything from me, feel free to shoot me a message. If I can help someone, there's
Yeah.
nothing that brings me greater joy than being able to help someone achieve their dreams and their goals. So,
Oh, that's awesome. So Dana, how would they get a hold of you? Facebook or Instagram, or here we are back at social media, but that's the
yeah.
best way probably.
Yep, I'm on all three, the X, Instagram, Facebook. I'm even on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Just search my name, Dana McCarthy, and shoot me a message. If anybody ever has
Mm-hmm.
questions, just shoot me a message.
Okay. Sounds good.
So,
That's awesome. Well, Dana, I have really enjoyed talking to you and learning more about what you're doing, and you're going to have such a fun year. It's going to be starting in a couple weeks, and you're going to be go, 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 and you're going to have so much fun, and you're going to make so many good memories. And, when you talk about your guys in the sprint car series, it won't be long and you'll be talking about the guys at Spire the same way.
That's the thing. Even though, so we just had our Rockingham test, and even just after our 1 day at Rockingham, I'm like, man, I already feel like I've got like almost kind of that same like family bond feeling with my cup or my truck team as I did my sprint car team. So
yeah,
you can't beat when you find a good group like that. You just can't beat that.
No, you can't. You just can't. They're family, that's for sure.
They are. They are.
Well, thank you again for being on. I really appreciate it. And if you just hold on after the recording, I got a couple little things and then I'll let you go.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me on, Melinda. I really appreciate it.
Oh, sure. That's it for this episode of the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. We hope you've been inspired by the stories I shared today and feel more connected to the amazing community of women in motorsports. Remember, whether you're behind the wheel, in the pits, or cheering from the stands, your story matters. And together, we're driving change and celebrating every milestone. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who loves motorsports as much as you do. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more incredible stories. So until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and keep racing through life. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, where every woman's story is worth celebrating.